y'all, I'm Ellen. We've been super inspired by our journeys of self-healing and discovery.
And I'm Sam, and we want to share our experiences with you to help you get curious about yourself, reconnect, and get intentional about your life so you know what makes you happy.
Welcome to Woo New, the podcast. We're crazy excited to be talking to Robyn Miller Brecker today. She's an Emmy Award-winning producer and the creator of the new Seeking with Robyn series that I'm been really, really excited about. And Sam's been watching it as well on YouTube. And we're just really excited to have you, Robyn.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yay. So just to give like a little bit of background context as to just even how Robyn and I know each other, I think we met way back in, I think it was probably somewhere around 2014 or 15 when this was when I was back in the agency and we were working with Oprah and had to go to Harpo's studio where Robyn actually was working. And I think it was through that work. It was through, I was redesigning Oprah.com at the time, and then also working on the Life Class show, doing some nice show graphics. Yeah. And you were a part of the OWN team at that time, right?
Yeah, I actually started working for Harpo back in 2000, really at the very, very beginning of 2000. So I ended up working and starting Oprah.com, actually, back when the internet was just getting going. So I was it was really interesting because when I started, we were looked at as this marketing site, and really within a year, that's when everything just changed. It was very cool to be part of something that was so ever changing and evolving. And we went from being a marketing site to becoming a business within a year and a half from the time that I started. So, and our team was like 7 people, and then we grew to be over 100 people. So within a certain amount of time. So it was a very I feel very grateful to have been part of that, and really then helped build Oprah's digital world for almost 20 years. So I got to see all aspects when we were a show, and then we had the radio, and then the magazine, and her philanthropy, and then we built Oprah.com as its own entity as well. And then when the show went away, and then we became a network. So it's, I got to be a part of all of those spokes in the wheel. So
that's so rad. Yeah. And you even had a part in bringing the podcast into being too.
I did. Right? It's funny, around the time that you're talking about, I can remember a team of us sitting down talking about podcasts. They were just starting, and we had thought back then, which was years before we actually then put the Super Soul podcast into action. We were talking then about how, would people want to listen to Super Soul Sunday on their commutes or in their homes, just, via audio. We were talking about it then because we knew we had this wealth of content that could really change somebody's life. So we started then, and then, yes, that became into fruition in 2018, I believe. So, yeah.
That must be so gratifying because that show single-handedly opens doors for millions of people, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and yes, it was. I learned so much myself, that was really, for me, I know that is why I was supposed to work with and for Oprah, because, the people that came through those doors, they not only did they change my life, but I got to be a part of bringing their messages to millions of people. And so that is really what kept me there for so long, and learning from Oprah herself. I feel so grateful that was part of my life's plan. And for me, it started with like the Dr. Phils and the Dr. Oz's of the world back in the early 2000s. And then really, Dr. Oz and obviously Dr. Phil ended up getting their own shows, and I got to be a part of helping with those in the beginning. And then for me, one of the pinnacle points was working with Eckhart Tolle in 2007, 2008.
I can't even
And
imagine. That must have been so
Mhm.
amazing.
it really was. For personally, I had never really thought about my inner voice or my ego or awareness in the way that I was able to gain from my time spent with Eckhart. And one of the things that I feel so fortunate that I was able to do at the time is I was part of a team that was taking his new book at the time, which was A New Earth, and we were translating it, um, basically translating it for our audience, as well as making it our first webcast. So we were able to take that book and make it a 10-week basically online course. But what we did, which had never been done before, was we were making those classes live. So we had people, it
Mm.
sounds so like nothing now in 2020, but back in 2008, was a really big deal. And the first night, we actually had so many people. I remember it was over 600,000 people on, and we couldn't even handle that kind of traffic on our, and we thought we were like so ready, and we crashed that first night. And obviously we were able to get things going again, and but it was for the time that was revolutionary. People really weren't doing that, and we didn't know that many people would be interested from a spiritual perspective, in what Eckhart was saying. And we were so excited that we were wrong in many ways. And so that actually was a good thing. We realized we were on to something. And I think that course, that book, that webcast changed a lot of people's lives, and continues to. What's beautiful about it is I know that um, that the team, we released it in 2019 actually. And so I think for a lot of people it was 10 years later, a little over 10 years later, where people were hearing that again for the first time, and it was still making a difference. So to me, that was one of the bigger awakenings in my life, was working with Eckhart. And actually Elizabeth Lesser was the person who helped translate as well. So
Man, I
yeah.
remember that. I went through that 2019 series like
You
every
did.
single week. Absolutely. That was my first
Yeah,
time.
me too.
Oh
I was
my
like, "Oh,
God.
it's Wednesday."
That's so cool. I love that. And I did too. I did too. I was like, and actually it's the kind of book for me that every few years I actually go back, but it was really cool to have those posted as a podcast. And I know
Yeah.
Oprah did some new, she herself did some new reflecting as before posting it. So it was cool to get her updates as well.
Yeah.
So I'm so
It's so
glad
powerful.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. When I found out that you were behind the podcast, I was like, all right, this woman, I need to get to know her better.
It's well, and it's like it was just I was really fortunate to be part of a team that all believed, and also made it more normal. I think for a lot of people who think about spirituality, and I love the title of your podcast, because I do think people think it's woo woo, and I think what we're here to do, and our mission is to just normalize it. Like I mean, I'm going to put this, we're kind of normal people, and um, and these beliefs and the things that we end up being exposed to not only help ourselves, but we know they can help so many people. It's finding the right vehicles and the right channels and the right healers and teachers that are able to make people feel comfortable, I think. And
Yeah.
even someone like Eckhart, who some people, I still to this day, I think it's hard for them to completely understand him. But if you have a
Mhm.
translator with him, which I think the team was able to do, it helps make it a broader message, and it's so
Yeah.
important once you get it.
I totally agree. I also find that, like, the experiences that we're gifted in life are really kind of, I don't know, it's like, it's almost like the hand that sort of like pushes us into this realm of like wanting to deep dive and really understand ourselves better and get curious and grow in
Yes.
that consciousness. And, I had heard your story from you directly, but then I also read the article that you had written for Oprah.com about your first experience, or maybe it wasn't your first experience with
It
a
was.
medium,
No, it
but
was. It
was
was.
it?
It
Oh,
was.
okay.
Yeah, it
Oh my
was.
God. It was amazing. And you and I share a similar fact that we lost our fathers when we were pretty young.
Yes.
And it sounds like that first experience with this medium reconnected you to his spirit, right? And
Yes.
I would love to hear that story again.
I'm dying to
Okay.
hear it.
Okay. I love talking about it because for me, really, while Eckhart Tolle was that beginning of, even though I had been working in that spiritual realm for Oprah for several years before that experience with Eckhart, the experience with the medium took it to a whole other level for me. And, here I was, I lost my dad when I was 12. He died suddenly. And obviously, it changed my life forever, Ellen, as you know how that goes. It makes
Hmm.
you an adult at a really young, well, for me, it did. It made me an
Hmm.
adult at a really young age. And I was very fortunate because I have my uncle, who's my dad's brother, and he really stepped in within the day after my dad passed away. He stepped in as that father figure and really has now been my father longer than my father was in human lives, was my father on this earth. So I was very
Mm.
fortunate in that sense. And I think because I had my uncle, I never felt like such a lack of a father figure in my life. But, that loss and that idea that things can change in an instant,
Mhm.
and not to take things for granted, that was implanted on me that night on July 6th of 1987. And here I was many years later, and I'm a very, motivated individual. I wasn't really looking back. I wasn't thinking about my life in the past, but one day as I was flipping through People magazine with my daughter on my lap at the time, she was around 2 years old. I saw this woman who looked like she could be my friend, and it talked about how she was a medium. And something in my mind clicked, and I was like, how come I never thought about talking to a medium? We've actually had people come to the doors of Oprah, like John Edwards, James Von Prague. There were others, and I never thought, like, well, maybe I should talk to them to try to connect with my dad. It just never occurred to me till I saw this woman. And that's why this whole idea of normalizing, right? Like, I think
Mhm.
it's finding the right person to bring that out in you. And I saw this woman, Rebecca Rosen, and I actually flipped it, but then after I read the article, I didn't really talk about it. I don't think I mentioned it to my husband. It just kind of stayed in my mind. And a couple of weeks later, at work, I was getting phone calls for I was one of the people who was bringing in talent. We were kind of testing people through digital, and then they would then potentially end up in the magazine or the show. And so it wasn't unusual for me to get calls from publicists and agents. And I received some phone calls from a publicist and then separately from an agent talking about this woman coming through Chicago who's a medium.
Whoa.
And it honestly didn't register that it was Rebecca until I saw her. I know that sounds weird because obviously I had to know her name. She was coming through. She was meeting some people at Harpo. She wanted to meet. And when I walked in the room and I saw her face, it was one of those moments that we all have several of them in our lives. And for me, that was one of them. I remember exactly how I felt. And I looked at her and I was like, oh my God, it's the woman. And I loved her. She's like somebody, and to this day, she's a friend. And I feel like she's somebody that she normalizes this. And we were sitting there, we talked about things she could potentially contribute to Oprah.com. And then she invited me to a reading that night. And of course, I mean, that happened, I have my 2-year-old. I called my husband. I was like, I have to go to this reading. It's in Wilmette, which is a suburb of Chicago. And a couple of my coworkers came with me. And that night, my dad came through, and it was amidst 200 people. She had, in 2010, obviously the internet was around, but there was nothing about me that was on the web. So,
Mhm.
there was no way for her to know anything about my dad. And yet he came through, and it was very clear. And I was one of those people who didn't just raise my hand. Actually, my friend had to like hit me and be like, she's talking about your dad, you know? And once we got going, it was short, you know, that first night was short, but everything she said validated, number one, that she was talking to my dad. His name's Robert, and he went by Bob. Bob Allen Miller, and what she said gave me so much peace and healing, even in like the 5 minutes, maybe max, that I got with her that night. And I didn't realize I needed to hear those words, that he's proud of me and that he loves me and that he knows Jeff and that he knows Bella. And, you know, he had
Oh.
messages from my mom and my sister. And he knew what I'd been through to get where I was at that point in life. And I walked out of there so changed as a person. And again, I never realized I needed it because I had a really good life. I wasn't feeling like any sort of lack, again, because I had this father figure in my life. And that day, from that day forward, I was, number one, I knew that we never really die,
Mm.
and that there's this way of connecting with, you know, the other side. And so that started for me. I then got in touch with Rebecca after, was able to get an hour-long reading with my sister a few months later. And so, and which just further validated how much he's been with us. And it had been 23 years since he had passed away, you
Wow.
know, and she was even in shock. She was like, wait, when did he die? And, you know, because she's forgetting as she's in the moment. And I was like, you know, he died in 1987. And she's like, you know, and you hear this, and I've heard this now from other mediums in addition to Rebecca. There's a lot of souls that live with one foot in this world and one in the other, because they really do become part of what we all call, you know, we understand the spirit team, but we have these people around, these energies around us. Some we knew in this life and some we didn't. And he happens to be very much one of my spirit people. So then what ended up happening after that is I kept in touch with Rebecca. I became more curious, which is a word I think the three of us use a lot, and open to what else is out there. And I was fortunate to have Rebecca to go to, and but that first time, that was the life-changing moment for me, I'd say, as
Wow.
an adult.
That
Yeah.
was in front of 200 people?
It was.
That must have been so intense.
It was. I mean, I was hysterical. I mean, of course, I was
Yeah.
hysterical, but you kind of forget. Like, I think because I was so zero, like my energy and Rebecca's energy and my dad's energy were so zeroed in on one another, I kind of forgot everyone around me. And I
Wow.
mean, yeah, I was a mess. And it's that first time, it's so magical and so healing. And then definitely that hour long as well. And it continues to be. I'm just never, it never ceases to amaze me, how that communication can impact myself and others. And now I can even, we'll get there, but I can, you know, I'm talking to my dad now every day by myself, which is a whole
So
other story.
cool.
But yes, that first one, and then that, because of that first one, and now I now know, when I look, when I think about things, that we have such a, there's so much that we plan, I believe, before we come here. And I believe that my dad and I really planned this as souls before we both obviously came in here. And so now we get to do it together. He's just not physically here. So we definitely are here to help other people realize that this is a possibility. Not just a meaning possibility for you as a human to be talking to dead people. Sounds crazy, but I swear it isn't.
Oh my God. Everything you just said, your whole story, and just the fact that when you said you didn't know that you needed to hear it as
Oh,
badly as
I
you did,
didn't. I
dude, I
didn't.
just started crying. I mean, it's literally
Oh,
exactly what I experienced too, and I didn't know that I needed to hear it either, you know?
I
Um,
know. I know. And I remember you telling me your story, which is so powerful. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, I
it's
know.
crazy.
It's those
But
wounds, right? And like those
yeah,
it's that and it's interesting because that topic of inner child comes up so often for
mm,
myself and as well as others that I talk to, and it's healing those wounds.
yeah.
And who knew? Because I know you, and you are such a motivated, go-getter. And so and we have such, these kind of tough exteriors to a degree. And so we don't think like we're fine, right?
Yeah,
But think about how much better we are now and how we all can continue to be our best selves if we do really um are open and then do look back at what we've been through, and then get this healing.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And just knowing also that, like he's been this guiding hand in my
Oh my
life,
god.
like
Yes.
that final realization or being finally open to that I mean, it's so heart expanding. It's so expansive, period, like it really does. It's like doors blowing open to
Yes.
all these other possibilities, just that one fact alone.
Oh
And
god.
I'm curious, like, so that happened in 2010,
That
and
did.
it's almost like there was a span of time that happened in between that
Yes.
and what you probably would describe as kind of like your spiritual awakening that was
Yes.
happening in
Correct.
2018, which
That's right.
coincides with Sam and I's spiritual
I
awakening,
know.
which I
I was
find so
looking at that and I was
fascinating.
like, something's in the
You know
air.
what?
The
Well,
universe is calling
one
me.
thing we're gonna have to look. We're gonna have to my friend Stevie or another astrologer look at our
Mhm.
charts because there's something that we must all have something similar in our charts for that
Yeah,
time period. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
that is so interesting that we all 2018 was a huge year. Here's a question. I just have a question for you guys. Was
yeah.
87 a big year for you?
87. I'm
Can you
trying to
remember
remember.
that? I don't
I
know.
think
It
it was
was
in 6th grade.
1987. Like, I just wonder because I find there's like certain people in my life that do end up, including my husband. Like, his mom, she's living, but she had a real, cancer scare in 87, which impacted him and impacted their family. Like, and I'm like, oh, that was 87. 87 was a weird fucking year, So,
Yeah. I
anyway.
think my dad moved to Taiwan to work when in 87. If that's the right year. It's either 87 or 86, but I think it's 87 because yeah, it was the first day of my 7th grade year. And that was like it basically when my family became split in a sense. Like he was
Yeah.
like commuting, but yeah, he was like there
Yeah.
and our life changed,
Your life,
'cause
your life
yeah,
changed.
yeah, he was no longer in our house, like, we would see
Oh
him
my
4 times a
God.
year, and talk to him twice a week, but yeah, I think that was 87. That's
Isn't that
crazy.
interesting? I'm telling you, that's why I'm asking because I bet you if you looked again at and I mean, we could also look at numerology, but for me, astrology is so top of mind right now, and there's something that happens in our charts that are similar that we all and sometimes like what we're going through right now is universal, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Universally, we are all going through something, so it is impacting the world. But anyway, just thought I'd ask you guys. So yeah, but 2018 for sure was you're right. I would call it a spiritual awakening that had been brewing for years. And I don't was that the same for you guys too? Because for me, it was brewing.
Yeah. My
And
first life crisis landed me in LA with no job and I didn't know anybody, but then things evolved and I truly believe that I was meant to work at this agency and meet Ellen. But by the
mhm.
time that we left and we started this, even though I was so lost and had no idea where to go from there, I had known for years that like things had to change.
Yeah, right?
Mhm.
I know.
Mhm.
And but yeah, it's like we don't and it's that not knowing and living in that is not fun either. um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a
my
part
god.
on your website where you talked about how you felt like your soul had died, and I
I
remember, like,
Yes.
daily making I made jokes about it then. I'm like, "Oh, it's not as funny now." But I was like I would be like,
Yes,
"No, my soul is literally crushed right now." And, like, I
yes,
don't know why I
yes.
picked even to use the word soul because I had never used that in the context of any of my other communication, but I was like, "My soul is crushed."
Really?
And I was like, "Oh, man, I
Wow.
feel that."
Yeah.
Right? Like it's that but yeah, and maybe maybe it's like our guides putting that word in our because that is really I mean, soul obviously because I was working with Oprah, that was a big word I used, but I didn't know how else to describe it, right? Because I was functioning
Mhm.
and
Yes.
I and for me, it was weird because the other parts of my life were great. Like I have no complaints. And yet I couldn't like it was still really hard to get up in the morning. And then I'd be sitting in meetings and I should be so grateful. Like I have a great job. I actually because I'd worked so long and um I had a lot of flexibility, you know, I was able to work from home part of the time. And I just my point being I couldn't understand why I was feeling lost and really like someone was I was dying inside. And what I think when I actually reflect back to also in those years leading up to 2018, I would see Rebecca, I don't know, sometimes once a year, sometimes it would go a little longer. And when I would see her, and let's say I went to one of her big group readings, more just to support or bring a friend. I didn't expect to get a reading at that point. Afterwards, when we were just catching up, she'd be like, "Oh my God, you're still at Harpo, aren't you? You're still with Oprah." And I would say, "Yeah." She's like, "You're not supposed to be there anymore." And she would say stuff like that. I'm like, "Well, where am I supposed to be?"
Yeah. Where do I belong? I remember
You
that feeling a lot.
you know? Yeah, and it took me it's because I and again, I don't know, your backgrounds, but I think the 3 of us, like, we're responsible people. Like, I don't know, I
Mhm.
couldn't fathom quitting without some sort of plan. It's just not who I am.
Mhm.
So, it took a lot to really shake me. And for me, in 2018 it was shoved in my face, and so for me, it started because I my sister was going through some stuff, and while in Chicago, one of my good friends here is a medium, and but I would never take that for granted, and we've become much, much closer even since 2018, but she was someone that I would see every once in a while, so she definitely knew me and knew what I did, but she when she gets into her sessions, it doesn't matter. And so we had booked a session with her for April 25th of 2018. And even the way that that worked out was incredible because my sister doesn't even live here. It was just so happened she was going to be in town, forgot to tell me she was coming in. And the only time that my friend Lisa had open was April 25th. So we had this date. But prior to and leading up to that, I happened to go to a party at my friend's house, and the premise of the party is you never know what like I'm part of a supper club, and prior to quarantine time, and um, and we would show up. Every few months, someone would host, and you'd show up, and you wouldn't know what the night was going to bring you.
That sounds
And
so
that night
fun.
it was,
Wow.
and it was my birthday, and and not that that mattered, but it just so happens it was my 43rd birthday, and when we walked in, we were told that there was a psychic there, and everybody was gonna get 15 minutes with this psychic. So, of course, that's completely up my alley, so I'm excited. And again, but I don't know this woman. She obviously doesn't know me either. And she also the way that she worked is she used tarot cards. And so that was kind of her tool in addition to whatever she was reading your energy. And what she said that night just floored me because she of course, she only knew my first name. And she said, "You do something really rare and you've been really successful at it, but you are going to be doing something that is completely in line with your soul's purpose. And it might even make people know who you are." And she's like, she's like, you may be famous. And I was like, what? And that word, I was like, I'm like, you mean noticed? And she's like, oh, I think people are going to know who you are. And so but she said, but here's the thing, it's not going to happen overnight. And so don't quit your job tomorrow. She said, but by the end of this year, you will be done with your job that you currently have. And you will be using 2019 to work on this next project. And then in 2020, it's going to really take off.
Wow.
And she said all that. And I just remember, I mean, I didn't know what to believe. It just gave me hope, because I didn't know,
Mhm.
again, takes, and the three of us know, you don't know certain people and their backgrounds. But it definitely stayed with me and made me feel a little bit better that there was hope because, as we were just saying, I mean, my soul was dying and I needed something to keep me going and then also help me figure out that there was going to be a plan in the future. And from there, that Wednesday was April 25th. And I showed up with my sister to see my friend Lisa. And the first thing she said to me was, "What are you working on?" And looked at her and
Wow.
I was like, "Well, that's why I'm here because I need help. I really need help." And she kept saying to me, "What are you working on?" And I'm like, "I really don't know. I'm doing the same thing I've always done, and I'm really not okay." And so we spent a lot of that session talking about my sister, talking about some stuff with my husband because he was going through some stuff. And by the end of it, she looked at me and she goes, "Listen, they are saying you are working on something. Please tell me." I said, "Well, I said, I just came up with this idea to write this article called The Night a Medium Changed My Life." And she goes, "That's it." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "That article is going to lead to all this other stuff for you. That is the key." And she's like, "And you're a medium." And I'm like, "What are you
So cool.
And she goes, "I'm serious. You have what it takes. You have the gift. We all have it." She's like, "But you really have it. You're supposed to be doing something with that gift." And that article is going to lead to, I think, a TV show. And she said, maybe books, TV show. And then we started talking about what a TV show could look like. And she's like, "You need to start taking classes because if you're going to write about this or you're going to do anything, it will be helpful for you to understand it." So she said, "Just promise me you'll take a class. I don't care if it's my class or you find something else near you, just do it." And when I left there, and oh, by the way, she gave me the exact same timing. She goes, "You're going to be done
Wow.
with OWN," because she knew where I worked. She's like, "You're going to be done with OWN by the end of the year." And she's like, "You're going to be working on this next thing all of 2019. And then it's really going to take off in 2020." She said the exact same thing.
Oh my
Crazy.
It
God.
was
My mind is so
crazy.
blown right now.
It was. And so then I walked out of there and I was like, "Okay, there's something to this." I just heard this twice in 1 week, and I was so floored, but it also felt right. And I don't know when you guys made your decisions.
Yeah. Well, let me just like tell
Yeah.
you the timing of your sessions and this week. April was the month that both Sam and I bounced from our
Yes.
agency.
Oh, look at
I know. I was
you.
like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah. The timing is insane. Yeah. And I think my last day was the very last day of April, and Sam's was like 2 weeks right before, I think.
Yeah,
But
like
yeah,
a fifth
right
Oh
around that
my
time.
That's
That's
so crazy.
I know. But sorry, I
there's
cut you off. Continue.
No, because there's something about that, and then for me, really, from there, it was like, okay, I know then it was about having trust, and because I've done a lot of just work and worked with so many gifted teachers and, authors and all of that throughout I just was like, "You have to trust," and Oprah has taught so much about this, which is trusting the universe.
Mhm.
And so I was like, "Okay, I now heard this message twice. Something's gonna happen." So I did actually within a few days of that, I did sign up for a summer course with Lisa. So it was like I was committing to, "I'm going to do this." And then within 2 weeks of that April 25th, so now we're in May, I was in New York having dinner with a friend of mine who was a publicist. And I was telling her what had happened. And she was like, "I didn't know you were into that. I'm into that too." And she starts calling people at the dinner table. She's like, "You need to talk to the shaman. You need to talk to this medium. You need to talk to this healer." And she just, she just starts. And so that led me to start talking to even more people who also said the same thing. I mean, none of them knew each other and none, besides my friend Lisa, who did know me to an extent, none of them knew what was going on or knew me. And so it was then when I talked to this shaman who was this powerful, beautiful woman at the time. And for those listening, I'm, I didn't know what a shaman was. I don't know if everybody does. I had this image of a shaman as like a little Native American man who's going to take me through, the desert, and we were going to do
We
drugs.
we literally
But
just learned the same thing.
yeah,
It's so
right?
funny. Everybody
You
has, like,
know?
this image in their heads of, like, a guru.
Totally. And like, so I remember I was talking to this woman, and I was really more talking about potentially doing my next article after I posted the Medium article on her. And just within like halfway through our just conversation, she's like, "Can we talk about you and not talk about me?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What do you want to talk about? What do you see?" And she was like, "You're supposed to have your own TV show."
Wow.
And
What?
that just floored me. And and she was super helpful in then helping me figure out, okay, there are steps I can do. So I ended up working with her um for a period of time. And again, and I know that there's other really gifted shamans. She was someone who really did help me start to even believe it more. And then I talked to other mediums and then energy healers and then an astrologer, and all of it gave me the confidence to start walking around as if like my life is going to change and I actually can have a part in that. I don't need to wait for somebody to make the change for me. And so I started speaking up to both my boss and in meetings. And what happened was I was working on a project with Discovery at the time because OWN is it is now actually a majority owned by Discovery. At the time, I think we were half, it was 50-50. Regardless, we were working on a project together. So there was a team in New York, and we were discussing something that had gone on with the project. But prior to that meeting, people were gathering via Zoom, and we were just talking about what's going on. And I was talking about my article was finally going to post. And so I mentioned the word medium, and everybody in the room was like, "Hey, what do you mean? What's a medium?" Or I've heard about, I've been to a medium. Everyone had their own story and really wanted to talk about what that means and who they've been to and what's the experience like. And we had to get going on the actual meeting about the project. And I remember saying, "Don't worry about it. It's going to be on my show." And everybody in the room was like, "What the hell is this girl talking about? She works for Oprah full time. What show is she talking about?" And so afterwards, one of the executives called me and she was like, "What were you talking about before we started talking, the actual meeting? And what show?" And I told her about what had happened over the last few months, and she's like, "Well, I want to help you." And so that was real. So now she has actually become a part of what I'm working on. She's now the executive producer. Her name's Karen Lenzer. And she's definitely one of my soul people, and just like we're supposed to know each other, she was definitely somebody who had come to Discovery because she wanted to start some sort of spiritual network, and again, normalizing it. Like, how do you use this in all aspects of your life? And that's really how she got her job at Discovery. And then she was put on all different projects. And so that didn't happen, but she never has given up her dream of making that really her full-time gig. And so she's just, you know, definitely a soul sister and has helped me figure out and become even more confident in what I'm doing. And then obviously we've now launched Seeking with Robyn. But it's so interesting how once you start to believe it and speak it, it starts to happen. And really, even with my boss at the time, I was confided in that I was not happy, and that had nothing to do with the organization. It was about me. And I said, "I'm looking to make a change. If you have to reorg this company and you have to lay people off, I would be volunteering to be laid off." And so, and most people that would sound crazy, but I was ready, and I didn't even know what that would look like, but it did end up happening. They did end up having to reorganize things, and I did get laid off, which was a gift for me. And I know for others it's not, and that it depends on where you are in your life. But for me, I was able to. It gave me permission to work on what I think my soul has been telling me to work on for a while. So,
So
yeah.
while you were on that process of sort of creating Seeking with Robyn, is that when you got your mentorship or your mediumship training, or did that happen prior to?
So the mediumship training happened prior to me coming up with Seeking with Robyn, because I didn't know what I was going through in that middle of 2018 was what is it that I'm going to do, And I think that's what I needed to figure out, and it gave me the time to figure that out. And my training, which was really, I call it my spiritual summer, because it was the first summer my daughter went away to overnight camp for 8 weeks. And I used every single one of those weeks to really, to kind of grow and as I think, and explore what spirituality for me looked like. And so I took my mediumship class. I worked with that shaman, and then I just started talking. I was trying energy healing. So I wanted to just find. All of a sudden it was like the door opened, and I wanted to do everything. And I
That's how I
did
Yeah.
feel
end up
all the time.
right. And like
Yeah.
I think for me with the mediumship training, which I then extended well into 2018 and 2019. I think I was shocked that even that first day, what my friend Lisa, who you can see on Seeking with Robyn, what she does in her classes is she throws you in the first day. I don't know if either of you have tried this,
I really
but
want to, but not yet.
okay. Well,
I'm
that
totally
first
going to.
day, she throws you in to reading somebody else. And what you continue to learn, or for me, I know what I have to continue to do is to trust the messages, that nothing can be that crazy. And meaning, like, you will see or hear depending on what your dominant clair sense is. And I don't know if you guys have studied that or if that's been on your podcast, but we all have these senses, and some of us can hear things in our mind, some things people can see things in their mind, some things people feel it, you can taste it. There's all of these different ways of understanding, like, that inner, what's going on in your third eye. And for me, I can hear and I can see things mostly, and then I can feel it. But anyway, that first day, it's like you have to trust the things that you're seeing. So I because it was that first time, I remember I was reading this woman who had lost her, and I didn't know this until after I read her, but she'd lost both her husband and her son.
Mm.
And I was getting these the name Al popped in my head. I pictured her house. I was able to her husband's car, what he wore, and I had just met that
Whoa.
woman. You know what I
That's
mean? And I didn't
crazy.
know any of that. So that's why I know this stuff is real, because I can do it. So,
Holy
uh,
moly.
you know, and then you start to trust more and more. And I'm still figuring out, there's something called a symbol library, and everybody, you know I will get certain things in my mind that mean something specific, um like a heart could mean love, right? Or I have a friend who every time they see Jerry Lee Lewis, it means piano. Piano, piano. You know what I mean? Like, every person's a little bit different. And you start to like need, and one of the things for practicing to become a medium, or just to even communicate with the other side, is starting to understand what your symbol dictionary is, or what your dominant clair senses, because some people don't even need that, right? They really do get things so clearly that they can understand what energy is saying, or they see it. So again, everybody's different, and you start to understand your own way of communicating. And so that first day, I was shocked at my own
Wow.
gift,
Mm.
honestly. And then, then you have to continue to work on it. And you realize that there's other factors sometimes that can impact how good of a reading you can give. And um, yeah, but that's what I learned. And again, I don't know that, like, for me, I'm so grateful that I can do this. I have no idea where it will take me in the future. When I
Mm.
look at, like, Rebecca Rosen or my friend Lisa, they their gifts are even so much more powerful, and I'm not sure, but it just is. They've practiced a lot more, and maybe innately it's even just better, because
Yeah.
sometimes I look at my friend Lisa, I can't believe the things that
Oh my
she's saying.
gosh. Her videos with her are some of my favorite because she's
Right?
so
Yeah.
good.
She's
So
so good.
good.
And there's different kinds of mediums, by the way. It's like, and I don't know again how much you've studied, there are Lisa and I talk about this actually all the time, because there are some people, like there's Thomas John. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's he's a great medium. He's so specific. I remember meeting him, and he said to me, "Your your dad passed away in your room on the second floor."
What?
Whoa.
And I will tell you, I had never told any. I mean, that's not something that
Holy.
he would know. And I was like, "He did." Yes, he did. Like, it was such a shocking thing to me that he could be that specific. It's like, how can you question that? You couldn't
Yeah.
Mm.
look that up anywhere. I have no idea. And it wasn't like when I was looking into his eyes, I was picturing my dad honestly dying in my room. I wasn't, because I talked to him. I had already talked to mediums before, so it wasn't going to be so shocking to me to sit down with him. So anyway, my point being, there are some people who can validate things so and to such detail, you cannot question that. And Lisa can do those kinds of things, although she would tell you, she's like, "I didn't know your dad died in your bed in your room." Um, but what she's able to do is not only validate, because she's really good at validating, but she's also able to really give you messages that you needed to hear for healing. And then she, I don't even know how but she does give you kind of those future type messages, what you should be doing with your life. And listen, there's all different kinds of mediums and intuitives that are good, and there's also ones that aren't. And that is another one of my quests in life, is to find the people that are good, because I do think that there are those that are out there that are not as powerful or may have other intentions, just like in any business, right? So you have to definitely get people that are recommended by others. That is a big
Mhm.
part of, I want to make sure that people, they're diligent in their checking people out. I don't know again if you guys have found that, but that's important.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Like without exception.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, part of the whole mission with this podcast too is to validate, and to really explore a lot of these concepts that people probably don't know very much about, but also to really find the true healers and the true, people who are coming at it from a place of like good, and
Yes,
Mhm.
positivity
exactly.
and man, as I hear you talk, it's really interesting because I feel like this comes up every single interview that we do, but your special blend
Mm.
of just who you are and
Mm,
the gifts of your experiences in your life, the fact that you were at OWN for a while and working with Oprah and had this whole foundation and created content and podcast, all these things, and you have this gift. I mean, Seeking with Robyn, it's like it's such a
oh,
no-brainer,
I
oh,
know.
It's like
thank
so your
you.
path, and
Thank
I
you.
tell us everything about this show because
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
Well,
launched on
so
YouTube right now, right?
yeah, so right now it's on at YouTube. It's on YouTube, youtube.com/Speaking with Robin. And what's interesting about it is that Karen and I had really been planning on pitching, well, not planning, we started pitching a different show, a different format for the show to different networks and platforms before the coronavirus quarantine hit. And so we had started that pitching in January, and we actually had planned to come out to LA and pitch in person to several different executives. And then, of course, things changed. And the concept of the show, the other show, which I believe will come to fruition as well, whether it's called Speaking with Robyn or something else, that is would require traveling around more, right? So it's probably not the best time right now to do it, although we could probably get creative. And that one really, without giving away exactly what it is, um, it does help people at a crossroads in life. And which is what we want to do too with what we're doing right now on YouTube. And we're going to do that to the best of our ability given the technology that we have. So, but the idea is we really want people to experience what I experienced, what Karen experienced. I don't know if you guys have experienced this too, but this idea that, no, someone can, there's different modalities that
Mhm.
can validate what you, where you are and what you should be doing. And you're taught, there's people who don't know you, and they don't know each other, and yet they're all saying the same thing, and they may again have different expertise. One may be an astrologer, one may be a past life regressionist, but what you're going to, at the end of those sessions, you will walk away and you won't believe that in essence you're being told the same thing, and that is what's going to help you change your life, I believe.
Yeah.
And so that is the goal of Speaking with Robyn overall. I want to help people remember why they are here and remember who they are. And I believe the way to do that is to introduce I think my job is to introduce people to these spiritual tools and beliefs that they didn't know were out there. And I think once they hear them, certain ones will resonate with them and others may not, right? It's like that same idea of something will trigger something for you, and so that will make you curious to go check it out for yourself. And that is my goal, because I believe that through these tools and beliefs you can find healing, it will give you hope, and then it will also get you back on track with why you are really here. And we all come in with a path, and it's very easy to get off that path. So I really want to help. Like, sometimes we call it a makeover for your soul, but it's a remembering. I think it's a remembering. It's like, what are these tools? And for every person who's listening to this podcast right now or might watch one of my YouTube videos, there's a reason why you're listening or you're watching right at that moment. That is not by mistake, that is on purpose. And I believe you're supposed to hear that message because it's going to make you curious. And hopefully, you're open enough if you're listening to this or you're watching one of the videos. And so, whatever you're watching, whatever you're listening to, start to like look into that a little bit further. And that's my mission, is to awaken what's already there. You just don't know how to find it. And so for what we were talking about, if you feel like your soul is dying, or if you've lost somebody that's really close to you and you don't know what to do, you're either grieving for that person or you're grieving for your happiness. There are ways in which that you can find that again. There's ways to heal, and there's ways just to bring back the joy. And so that's
Yeah.
really what I want to do. So what's so interesting is that we had this whole other kind of, not, the mission was always the same, but we had another format, and we'd already shot a pilot back in September. We were on this pitch train, and when Corona hit, it was like, you know what? We don't need to wait for anybody. We can just do this ourselves. And that was, again, one of those times in life where you realize you have all the resources. And I am very fortunate to know some of the healers and teachers that I have worked with have very much become my friends. And they didn't even actually all know each other. But we were like, what can we give back right now to people who are home and wondering why in the hell we are all going through this? Because it does seem so crazy. And that's how it all kind of came together. But I had been planning, on this other, and I still am. I'm really looking to build a much bigger platform. I'm hoping several shows come out of this Seeking with Robyn brand, and I'm hoping to just bring hope and healing and help as many people as I can.
God, I love everything you just said.
I know, me too. I was like, I feel like she's singing our song.
I think we're on the
Yeah.
same mission. I really do.
100%. Yeah. Well, what I love about you starting out on YouTube and doing it in this very grassroots sort of way, I
Yeah.
mean, you are directly addressing an issue that all of us are going through right now. And, there is like awakenings happening left, right, and center as we speak, and it really is the time right now where people are starting to question their lives in a deeper
Yes.
way and, experiencing these transformations and they may be in that period of time where it feels like they're literally, in like fog and mist
Yes.
and like not sure where the hell they're at and where they're going and why they're feeling this way. And thank God for, like people like you who feel that conviction to create, content and get that information out there and have people sort of like guide people in their questioning, and really spark that seeking. I love exactly what you're
Yeah.
setting out to do. It's really, really awesome.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that the format especially in times like these, is actually really beautiful because it makes it feel like when you watch the videos, you're having a direct conversation with you and with your spirit squad and with all of these healers that And it's like, oh man, I don't have to sift through all of this other stuff. I can just be here and learn from you. And like you're speaking to us, which I find really special about that format. There's something about the YouTube and not having it like done in a studio
I
outright that like
know. I
makes
know
it
what
feel
you're
very.
saying. Well, it's more raw, it's more intimate. It's, my friend, Lisa, I bring her up again, but she, we were having this conversation about authenticity, and I think I really do believe that what has happened over these many years is that we've become this society who's just, especially with social media, there's people who are always like they're trying to put out a certain persona than what they actually are. And then we all think that we have to kind of live up to that persona. And I
Mhm.
think what this time does, and what I think this format does, which you're bringing up, is that there's no hiding. This is just who we are,
Yeah.
and it feels intimate. There is an intimacy. We're inviting each other into our homes, and you never know what's going to happen while you're on those calls and video calls.
Yeah, tell us about the flying orb that you experienced.
Oh
That
my
was
God.
insane.
That's so funny.
Holy Oh my goodness. So, yeah, that was with Michelle Brock, who's a past life regressionist, and that actual episode will be up in a few weeks. But during the taping for that, what was so interesting was that I could I could feel something. No, let me start. Let me start. There's something. Let me start back a few more. What happened was my so my daughter and my husband were not home, and I was sitting in my family room, which is like pretty far from my kitchen. And I heard this beeping going off and I couldn't figure out what it was. So I got up actually, went into the kitchen, and this was 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. And my Amazon Alexa, my Echo, but it's with video, was going off. And it was like alarm, 2 o'clock alarm. Why the hell would my 2 o'clock have a 2 o'clock alarm set in my kitchen? Could not. I didn't. I didn't set it, but it's going
Mm.
off. So I'm like, that's weird. So I said, Alexa, stop alarm. And then, oh, sorry, now my Alexa is going off. Then, so then, so then about 10 minutes later, I'm back, in my little studio area, and the alarm goes off again. And now that I know what it is, I actually have one that is closer to me, so I can tell it to turn the kitchen one off, right? And I'm laughing because I'm like, I don't understand. I already told it to cancel it. Why is it going off again? And so actually in the video, my head's down because I'm laughing because I can't believe I'm dealing with, as you and I have all talked. I mean, as the three of us have talked about, that you never know what's going to happen, right? From an electric perspective with technology. So I look up and I could feel this like almost whoosh come over me. And as I felt it, I could see in the Zoom video call this orb. I could see it. And it was like this flash. And it felt like it was, when I saw it at the time, it was only because I happened to be looking at in gallery view on
Mhm.
Zoom, I was looking at myself and I saw the
Mhm.
orb, but I actually at the time, because it was so fast, I thought it went through all of the screens. I didn't realize it was just in mine, but I felt this thing. And then when Michelle looked at it, and I think she's more of an expert than I am. She's freaking out because there was no dust around. There was nothing. That was clearly an orb. And when we looked back and it was like the way that it was circling, it was so cool. It felt like magic, it did
Yeah.
feel different. And then what's even crazier, you guys, is that later that day, I had left my house after I did the taping, and I I left, let's say at 3:30 my time, and I came back home at 7 something. The echo, I'm afraid to say the A word because it's gonna go off again. But the Echo Show with the video was frozen on 444.
What?
Stop.
Yeah, I have the picture. I
Oh
was
my God.
shrieking. I was
Oh
shrieking,
my
and
god.
444 is my number. It's like my angel number. This whole last year I was 44. My birthday's 4/22,
Oh my
and
gosh.
so I felt like. And then this year, I get it again because even though I turned 45 this year, my birthday's 4/22/2020, so it's
Oh my
4/4.
god.
So
Wow.
to walk in and have that same day with the orb, have it 444, and it was frozen in this way I've never seen the screen. Like that's not normally how the time shows up. It was huge across the whole thing. Anyway, I that was validation that day.
Holy
That was
Oh
shit.
my gosh. I'm totally freaking out though because I actually had to unplug my Alexa. I was telling Ellen this. I was getting so pissed
Stop
because
it.
I would be asleep in my house and I live alone and my Alexa is 2 rooms over, totally off. And at like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, it would just turn on and say, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand you." And I was
Stop
like,
it.
"Who is talking?" I would freak me out
Stop
so much.
it.
And it happened night after night. And finally I was like, I'm out. I'm done with this Alexa.
Oh,
Communicate with me in a different way.
Yeah.
that is so
Oh my god.
crazy. Do you talk to any kind of energy? Like, do you have those
Uh,
experiences or no?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So this
Yeah.
is actually all coinciding with me. Just, I'm in the middle of my master Reiki training right now, and I'm starting to
Wow.
explore other forms of energy healing. And so, as you were
Okay.
talking about, like the orb coming by, and you just feel this like whoosh, I'm like,
Yes.
oh, yeah, that's happened to me. I'll be just walking down a path, and all of a sudden, everything is just like boom, boom, and my whole reality is like in a bubble, like vacillating somehow.
Wow.
But I haven't been doing this very long, so my specific gifts and like the clear messages haven't come through, but all of those things I can definitely relate to. And it's a
Oh
pretty
my
cool
god.
experience when you start to have them and then you start to like acknowledge what they
Yes.
are, not brush them aside like you're losing your mind.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. I mean, I think one of my biggest things is noticing the signs,
Yeah.
Like there was like what happening to you with your I can't even say the word because it'll go off. But what was happening there for sure has to do with what you're working on. You know, there is definitely
Mhm.
some sort of energy. I mean, and it doesn't mean it's a bad energy, but I get that you don't want to be woken up by it.
Yeah. I
You
think it was
know?
just like it's one of those things where, well, Ellen and I actually even we took at this intuitive development course a while back, and like we were talking about all the different ways that when you start to open up to these types of communication that they can come through, and just
Mhm.
technology happens to be one of them,
Yes.
and now we've given all of these devices voices. So
Yes.
here we are.
So many new toys to play with.
Yeah.
I have this light in my bathroom. There's like it's basically four balls of like little like lights that hover above my sink, and then four more that hover above my husband's sink.
Yeah.
And I had to ask him the other day because every time I go in there, like two of the bulbs on my side, it's always my side, will just flicker on and off, on and off. And then sometimes, I will literally stare at it and talk to it because I'm convinced that it's somebody trying to
Yes,
communicate with me,
it is for sure.
And yeah, and like I asked my husband, like, do the bulbs ever flicker? Because it could be a technical issue. I don't
Yes,
know,
yes, yes.
like, do they flicker when you're in the bathroom? And he's like, no, never. I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
Well,
this
Yeah.
is
oh my
so
god,
bizarre.
that's actually how one of the first things that happened to Lisa was the bulbs, and it was her
Whoa.
it happened to be it was her mom.
Oh
Shut the
So,
wow.
I
front door. Oh my
wonder
God, I'm dying.
really, for real, like, yes, it was like, that was one of the biggest things. She would ask her mom certain questions, and it was like, yes, no, certain and it would go on and off, and then, like, it became the way the kids saw it, friends would come over. She was
Whoa.
able to communicate with her mom, Julie, through the bulbs. Yeah,
Oh,
uh-huh.
my
Okay,
whole
I
body just
haven't
got chills.
asked. I need to ask some questions. I need.
I know.
I
I
haven't used
think
the question thing yet, but yeah, that's okay. That's
Oh
gonna
my
be my new
God, Elle, what
project.
if
now
it's so
I can't wait
bad?
to know, like, I'm gonna need an
I'll
update.
report back.
Yeah.
Holy like, really, you really do need to do something with that. That's cool. I wonder if it's your
Yeah.
dad or if it's
I
someone
know,
else,
I was
but
like, it definitely probably is.
yeah.
When in doubt, it has always been him.
Yeah.
I was curious, like, what kind of, I mean, Sam mentioned this before, the messages from beyond that you're doing. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, if there's any messages that have come through specifically about COVID that,
Mhm.
that you found really profound that you want to share.
Yeah, I think for me, the one of the biggest messages has been that this is happening on purpose. I think I said this in the very beginning, but we're all going through this together on purpose. It's like whether it's from from an intuitive perspective, you can look at it from an astrological perspective. I'm sure you can look at it from a numerology perspective. This is written, it's like written in the stars and the planets that we were going to have to hit reset in order to kind of save ourselves. I think I've said this again, we have been on autopilot. I think so much of what our society has been doing and going through over decades, and it just seems to me that it's just increased and increased, is that, like, we're running around, we're trying to keep up with the Joneses. I think one of the biggest things that I I actually had to become conscious of trying not to say it, but is saying I'm busy, right? Like, everybody's always busy,
Mhm.
busy, and busy. And I think that we've gotten away from who we really are and why we really came here. And so there's this lack of authenticity. And so when I hear across the board, whether it's from Michelle, who's the past life regressionist, or Jenna, who's an intuitive energy healer, or Lisa, who is the psychic medium, um, or Michelle, who's the past life regressionist, it's like they all, in their own way, are saying that this was going to happen because we are so disconnected. And it's time to reconnect both with ourselves and the people that are right around us, our loved ones, and whether that's your immediate family or it's your good friends. It's like we need to reconnect with who we are, who we surround ourselves with, what's really important, And so to me, the this is not it's not going away, and it's not going away right now. It's going to be in some aspect of our lives, for the foreseeable future. Obviously, we all hope that there's going to be a vaccine and so forth sometime next year. And so that will impact, I think, obviously, how we can get back to some more of a normal life. And I think, obviously, our lives will not be as restricted as they are right now, maybe even 2 months from now. I don't think we
Mhm.
know, but I think that this is so on purpose. And so if we just I think if people stay and what I feel like I'm getting is that it's not a time to sit back and complain. It's a time to get grateful. It's a time to like look at what you do have rather than complain about what you don't. And then while you're doing that, figure out, is what you've been doing working for you? And what in this time that we've, I think, been given, and for those of us who've been fortunate enough to actually be home, one of my best friends is an ER doctor. She's been working her tail off, and thankfully she's been healthy, and I know she's been putting her life on the line. So I'm saying for those of us who have actually had the time to reflect and figure out, are we doing what we want to be doing? And I know in my own life, I we in it has corona has actually the coronavirus, I should say, not corona. I shouldn't just say corona. Um, but the coronavirus has really impacted my family, both my aunt and my uncle. And my uncle is the one that I was saying is the father figure in my life. They both have had to, my uncle's actually still recovering from it, and my aunt has fully recovered. But those are two of the people in my life that I was so fearful, and I try not to live with fear, but that I was actually worried
Yeah,
about. And they both
that
got
must be
it.
so hard.
Yeah, and they're both thankfully okay. I think my uncle, even though he's still in recovery, he's really past that more frightening time for him. And then we actually had an aunt, his sister, and my dad's sister passed away of the coronavirus. And she happened to be somebody who was living in a nursing home, who did have a compromised immune system, but it was shocking. And I think we're still processing it. Um, we had to have a Zoom funeral for her last week. I mean, it's just like it seems so out
Oh,
of
wow.
body and out of mind that we it's really impacted personally. It's impacted my family, and then on top of it, my husband is going through a whole his department was eliminated, and I think it's times like those, and I'm so grateful to have these messages and to be a part of a community that thinks that there's a bigger picture, right? Because when that happened with my husband, the first thing we said was, well, we know that when one door closes, another opens, and we're not going to let the fear get to us, because I think that that is what happens to most of us. And to, I know, maybe old me or old Jeff before we had our spiritual kind of awakening and believed in something much bigger. And I know for some people that religion is that for them. I think for us, it's more a spirituality and just believing in something bigger than ourselves, and that having trust in that. And that was our initial reaction, was like, we're going to be okay. So
Mm.
we're going to first deal with like the death of my aunt. That like puts things in perspective when you lose a job, right? Because a job is
Mhm.
a job, and he's, as a family, will be okay, and I want him to feel more fulfilled. There's a reason it happened, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
it's looking at all of that. That's what I would say. But I do think it's this time to reevaluate, and hopefully, if you were, again, if you're fortunate enough to be healthy and to have stayed home, then I hope that you're able to really look at things and maybe continue to look at things, because this is here for a while. And for those that have had to work, and for those that are on the front lines, thank you, because that is part of their mission. And I'm so grateful for them, and for
Mm.
what they've chosen to do in this life, because they're
Yeah.
affording all of us, um,
Yeah.
hopefully a healthy and rich, a life full of, and when I mean a richer life, being fulfilled.
Thank you so much for that. That was, yeah, I feel like, yeah, and
Yeah.
just so really needed to be heard, and really
Yeah.
need it. It's a message that I feel like affects all of us. And, you know, there's been so many things that have happened on a personal level, like just through the last couple of months that, you know, it's kind of amazing to see it happening on this like micro level and on this macro level at the same time.
Mhm.
It's like
Yes.
everything being reflected across the board. And yeah, it's really kind of forcing you to see what are the opportunities and the positive messages and the lessons that are coming through, and to be grateful for them.
Yeah, be grateful and then and take each day as it comes. That's kind of all we can
Yeah.
do. And I know we were saying before we started our conversation, like some of the days are just running together because they feel the same. Um, but actually Oprah always has said this, which is it's like having sunrise faith, right? The sun's gonna shine somewhere tomorrow, right? It's gonna even if it's raining where you are the next day, the sun's shining somewhere. And so it's that belief that like tomorrow's a new day. And so even if all the days are kind of feeling the same, I always think about that. Like tomorrow is a new day. So even if today didn't feel great and maybe I wasn't my best or whatever it was, tomorrow's a new day. And so I think if you can take it day by day for now, and then within that day, at some point, if you can think about like, am I where I want to be? And am I surrounded by the people I want to be surrounded by? We all have choice. So it's a
Hmm.
reminder of all that we have choices and we are making a choice and we are making a choice for how we're bringing our energy into the world. Whether it's a conversation or if it's in person, you are the energy you bring to the room. And so
Absolutely.
it's remembering all of that.
Wow, thank
Yeah.
you.
This is so beautiful. I feel like we're just like divinely aligned, and it's such an honor to talk to you and to meet
Oh,
you.
I feel the
Yeah.
same way. I'm excited for the 3 of us. I am, I think we have so much to learn and teach
Hmm.
and share with one another and so many people. I'm excited to do that with you guys. So
I know,
Us
likewise.
too. Wow.
Where can people find your YouTube show?
So yes, you can find it at youtube.com/seeking with Robyn. You can also you just go to seekingwithrobyn.com and I actually have those YouTube videos posted on the site there as well as resources. And we also are on Facebook at Seeking with Robyn and Instagram at Seeking with Robyn. And I think we're going to start a TikTok account as well.
I
So
love that.
Yes.
that's my latest. But yes, you can find myself as well as all of my squad and different teachers and healers. We're kind of adding to the squad as time goes on. We hope that there's some others that come into the mix because there's so many people to learn from.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
I thank you guys so much. It was my honor. Thanks for wanting to hear my story and giving me a platform to talk about all of these lessons. And I just hope, it opens someone else up to the possibility and being curious themselves.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah. And I have a feeling we'll have many more conversations on this podcast.
I hope so. And you guys are going to have to come on my YouTube show too. So
Anytime.
I can't wait to hear your experiences and potentially have you guys meet with some of my healers and teachers that I'm bringing on because maybe you're willing to try something new as well.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. Wow, that would be so incredible.
Music for Woo New is composed by Adam Miller.